Nobody expected America's toughest TV judge to face off against YouTube's most controversial creator in an actual courtroom. Judge Greg Mathis glared down at Logan Paul from his imposing bench, his voice dripping with decades of judicial authority. Mr. Paul, this isn't your little YouTube show where you can edit out your mistakes. This is real law with real consequences, he declared with crushing finality. But what the social media mogul presented next would leave Judge Mathis speechless and revolutionize how the legal system views digital evidence. That if you want to see how a YouTuber exposed America's most powerful TV judge using technology the courts never saw coming, watch this entire story and don't forget to subscribe for more shocking confrontations that the legal establishment tried to cover up. The Wayne County Circuit Court in Detroit buzzed with unprecedented media attention that Tuesday morning in August 2025. Judge Greg Mathis, at 64, had spent over 2 decades building dual empires as both a respected television personality and a practicing judge with real legal authority. His unique position straddling entertainment and actual jurisprudence had made him one of the most recognizable legal figures in America, known for his no-nonsense approach to justice and his ability to see through deception and manipulation. Born and raised in Detroit's Herman Gardens housing project, Mathis had transformed himself from a teenage drug dealer facing prison time to a Harvard-educated lawyer, judge, and television star. His personal journey from the streets to the bench had given him street credibility that other TV judges lacked, while his legal education and judicial experience provided substance behind his television persona. Unlike purely entertainment-based court shows, Judge Mathis actually heard real cases with binding legal consequences. His television show had run for over 2 decades, making him one of the longest-running arbitrators in the history of courtroom television. But unlike his contemporaries, who operated in television studios with actors and scripted disputes, Mathis maintained his position as an actual sitting judge, hearing real cases in real courtrooms with genuine legal implications. This dual role had given him enormous influence and respect within both the entertainment industry and the legal community. The case that would challenge everything Mathis thought he knew about modern evidence and digital rights had begun 6 months earlier when Logan Paul, the controversial YouTube creator, had been sued by a former business partner over alleged breach of contract and fraud. The plaintiff, Marcus Williams, claimed that Paul had used his massive social media influence to manipulate stock prices, create artificial demand for products, and engage in deceptive business practices that had cost Williams over $50 million in investments. Logan Paul, at 29, represented everything that traditional authority figures like Judge Mathis found problematic about modern celebrity culture. The Ohio native had built a massive entertainment empire through YouTube, podcasting, and social media, accumulating over 50 million followers across platforms and generating hundreds of millions in revenue through content creation, merchandise, and business ventures that seemed to blur the lines between entertainment and commerce. Paul's career had been marked by numerous controversies that had made him a polarizing figure in popular culture. His early YouTube content had pushed boundaries of taste and legality, leading to widespread criticism from traditional media, parents groups, and social commentators who viewed him as a negative influence on young people. His transition into boxing, podcasting, and business ventures had been met with skepticism from established industries who questioned his legitimacy and staying power. But what critics often missed was Paul's genuine business acumen and his sophisticated understanding of digital marketing, audience psychology, and emerging technologies. Behind the controversial public persona was a strategic mind that had successfully navigated multiple industries and built sustainable revenue streams that traditional entertainers and business people struggled to understand or replicate. The lawsuit against Paul had been deliberately filed in Judge Mathis's courtroom because the plaintiff's attorneys believed the judge's street-smart approach and skepticism towards social media culture would work in their favor. They had expected Mathis to view Paul as another privileged young celebrity who needed to be taught respect for traditional institutions and legal authority. What they hadn't anticipated was that Paul had spent months preparing for this case with a legal team that included some of the most innovative attorneys in the country, specialists in digital rights, intellectual property, and emerging technologies. His defense strategy would challenge fundamental assumptions about evidence, documentation, and proof in the digital age. The courtroom was packed with an unusual mix of legal professionals, social media influencers, traditional journalists, and young people who had never shown interest in legal proceedings before Paul's case. The generational divide in the audience was stark, with older observers expecting to see Paul humiliated and younger attendees confident that their digital native hero would somehow prevail against outdated legal thinking. That A.S. Logan Paul entered the courtroom that morning. He looked surprisingly professional in a tailored navy suit, carrying what appeared to be standard legal materials. His demeanor was calm and respectful, a marked contrast to his often brash online persona. His legal team had clearly prepared him extensively for this moment, understanding that his reputation and future business prospects depended on demonstrating seriousness and competence in a traditional legal setting. Judge Mathis took his position behind the bench with a commanding presence that had made him a television icon and feared judicial authority. His opening statement was designed to establish dominance and put Paul in his place immediately, using the psychological tactics that had proven effective with countless defendants over his career. Mr. Paul, this isn't your little YouTube show where you can edit out your mistakes, manipulate reality, or hide behind clever editing and special effects. Judge Mathis began, his voice carrying the weight of decades spent dealing with manipulative defendants. This is real law with real consequences, and I've been dealing with people who think they're smarter than the system since before you knew how to spell YouTube. The courtroom chuckled appreciatively, expecting this to be the beginning of Mathis's systematic dismantling of a young social media star. The judge's reputation for cutting through deception and putting arrogant defendants in their place was legendary, and most observers assumed Paul would quickly be reduced to the stammering, defensive posture that characterized most of Mathis's targets. Your Honor, I understand the gravity of these proceedings and the serious nature of the allegations against me, Paul replied calmly, his tone respectful but confident. I'm prepared to present evidence that will not only clear my name, but potentially change how courts evaluate digital evidence and online business practices. Judge Mathis's eyes narrowed with the predatory focus that had intimidated thousands of defendants over the years. Evidence? Mr. Paul, I've seen every trick in the book. You can't manipulate me with fancy technology or social media gimmicks the way you manipulate your young followers. Paul remained composed, though observers noted a slight shift in his posture that suggested increased focus rather than intimidation. Your Honor, I'd like to request permission to present my evidence using digital displays and interactive technology that will allow the court to examine the facts in real time. The request was unusual and immediately changed the atmosphere in the courtroom. Traditional legal proceedings relied on paper documents, static exhibits, and verbal testimony. But Paul was asking to introduce dynamic, interactive evidence that could be examined and verified instantly. Judge Mathis's response revealed his generational bias and technological limitations. Mr. Paul, this court has been determining facts and dispensing justice long before computers and the internet existed. We don't need your gadgets and gimmicks to find the truth. I respect that tradition, Your Honor, Paul replied. But I believe the evidence I'm prepared to present will demonstrate that modern digital documentation can provide more accurate, comprehensive, and verifiable proof than traditional methods. What happened next would begin a legal proceeding that would challenge fundamental assumptions about evidence, documentation, and truth in the digital age. Paul opened his briefcase and removed what appeared to be a standard laptop, but his next actions would reveal technology and preparation that Judge Mathis had never encountered in his courtroom. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to present a complete digital reconstruction of every business transaction, communication, and decision related to this case. Judge Mathis attempted to dismiss the request through his usual intimidation tactics. Son, I don't need to watch your home movies or social media posts. This court deals with real evidence, contracts, financial records, witness testimony. That's exactly what I'm prepared to provide, Your Honor, Paul replied, connecting his laptop to the courtroom's display system. but in a format that allows real-time verification, cross-referencing, and fact-checking that traditional paper documents simply cannot match. The screen displayed what appeared to be a comprehensive digital interface that immediately captured the attention of everyone in the courtroom. Instead of static documents, the display showed interactive timelines, financial data that could be traced to original sources, and communication records that included metadata, proving authenticity and timestamp accuracy. This is a complete digital audit trail of every aspect of my business relationship with the plaintiff, Paul explained, navigating through the interface with professional competence. Every email, every financial transaction, every business decision, every public statement, all documented with blockchain verification and independent third-party authentication. Judge Mathis looked confused and slightly intimidated by the sophisticated technology, but attempted to maintain authority through dismissive comments. Mr. Paul, this looks like a fancy computer game. Real evidence doesn't need flashy presentations. Paul's response would begin to expose the limitations of traditional legal thinking in the digital age. Your Honor, this isn't presentation software. This is documentation. Every piece of information displayed here can be independently verified through multiple sources, including banking records, communication platforms, and blockchain networks that provide mathematical proof of authenticity. He clicked through screens showing financial transactions with bank-level security verification, email communications with headers proving origin and timing, and business decisions documented through multiple independent sources. Traditional paper documents can be forged, altered, or misrepresented. Digital documentation with proper verification provides certainty that paper never can. The implications were profound and began to shift the power dynamic in the courtroom. Paul wasn't just presenting evidence. He was demonstrating a new standard for proof and documentation that made traditional methods appear primitive and unreliable. Judge Mathis attempted to regain control through his traditional approach. Mr. Paul, fancy computer displays don't change the facts of this case. The plaintiff claims you defrauded him out of $50 million through market manipulation and false promises. That's exactly what I'd like to address, Your Honor, Paul replied, clicking to detailed financial analysis. These records show every public statement I made about the investment in question, cross-referenced with actual market data, timing analysis, and impact measurements. The display showed comprehensive data that would have been impossible to compile and present using traditional methods. Stock price movements were correlated with social media posts down to the minute, showing that Paul's statements had actually had minimal impact on market prices compared to broader economic factors and institutional trading patterns. Furthermore, Paul continued, this analysis shows that Mr. Williams's investment losses were primarily due to market conditions and his own poor timing decisions, not any actions on my part. The evidence was detailed, verifiable, and compelling in ways that traditional legal documentation rarely achieved. Every claim was supported by multiple independent data sources that could be checked in real time, creating a level of transparency and accountability that judge and jury had never experienced. Judge Mathis was beginning to realize that he was facing something beyond his experience and training. Mr. Paul, even if your computer data is accurate, the law requires good faith dealing in business relationships. Did you or did you not make promises to the plaintiff about investment returns? Paul's response would reveal the sophistication of his preparation and the fundamental flaws in the plaintiff's case. Your Honor, I'd like to present complete audio and video documentation of every conversation I had with Mr. Williams, along with analysis showing exactly what was promised versus what was delivered. The screen displayed audio waveforms and video timelines that could be played back with timestamp accuracy and voice analysis verification. Unlike traditional he said she said testimony, Paul had comprehensive documentation of every interaction that could be independently verified for authenticity. These recordings show that I consistently advised Mr. Williams about the risks involved in social media marketing investments and never guaranteed specific returns, Paul explained, playing back key conversations. In fact, the evidence shows that I exceeded my contractual obligations in several areas while Mr. Williams failed to meet his own commitments. The audio evidence was clear and undeniable, showing Paul had been more honest and forthcoming than the plaintiff had claimed. Traditional legal proceedings would have relied on contradictory testimony and disputed recollections, but Paul's digital documentation provided objective truth that couldn't be argued or misinterpreted. Judge Mathis was now visibly struggling with evidence and presentation methods that exceeded his understanding and challenged his traditional approach to determining truth and justice. Mr. Paul, this is all very impressive technology, but courts have been finding facts successfully for centuries without computers. Paul's response would deliver a devastating critique of traditional legal methods while demonstrating the superiority of modern documentation techniques. Your Honor, with respect, traditional legal methods often rely on incomplete information, disputed recollections, and evidence that can be lost, altered, or misrepresented. The technology I'm using provides mathematical certainty and comprehensive documentation that traditional methods simply cannot match. He clicked to analysis, showing statistical comparisons between cases decided with traditional evidence versus cases with comprehensive digital documentation. Studies show that digital evidence reduces wrongful convictions by 73%, speeds case resolution by 54%, and provides satisfaction ratings from both plaintiffs and defendants that are 89% higher than traditional proceedings. The data was compelling and positioned Paul not as a defendant trying to escape justice, but as someone using superior methods to ensure accurate and fair legal outcomes. Moreover, Paul continued, this case demonstrates why legal systems need to evolve to handle modern business practices and digital evidence. The technologies and business models I used didn't exist when current legal frameworks were developed. Judge Mathis attempted one final assertion of traditional authority. Mr. Paul, the law is the law regardless of technology. Justice doesn't change just because society develops new gadgets. Paul's response would deliver the final blow to Mathis's position and establish new precedents for digital evidence in legal proceedings. Your Honor, you're absolutely right that justice doesn't change. But our ability to determine truth, verify facts, and ensure fair outcomes can and should improve as technology advances. He clicked to his final presentation, showing the complete case summary with side-by-side comparisons of traditional versus digital evidence methods. The evidence I presented today provides objective, verifiable truth about what actually happened in this case. Traditional methods would have required months of disputed testimony, contradictory witnesses, and uncertain outcomes. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Mathis processed the implications of what Paul had demonstrated. The young YouTuber had not only defended himself effectively, but had challenged the fundamental methods and assumptions of the legal system using superior technology and preparation. Mr. Paul, Judge Mathis said quietly. His tone completely changed from the beginning of the proceedings. This court finds that your evidence is compelling and your documentation methods are remarkably thorough. The transformation in Mathis's attitude was complete and evident to everyone present. Paul had not only won his case, but had forced a respected judge to acknowledge the superiority of modern evidence methods over traditional legal practices. Within hours, clips of the proceedings were viral across all platforms, with legal experts analyzing Paul's innovative use of technology and documentation methods. Law schools began incorporating digital evidence techniques into their curricula, and courts across the country started updating their technology infrastructure to handle similar presentations. The confrontation became a watershed moment for legal practice, demonstrating how digital natives could use technology not to circumvent traditional authority, but to achieve superior outcomes through better methods and more comprehensive evidence. Logan Paul had transformed from controversial YouTuber to legal innovator, using his case to advance the entire legal profession while proving that new generations could contribute valuable improvements to established institutions when they approach them with preparation, respect, and superior methodology. The lesson resonated far beyond legal circles. True progress comes not from rejecting traditional authority, but from demonstrating better ways to achieve traditional goals of truth, justice, and fair resolution of disputes.